you all had an awesome Thanksgiving weekend. I had a great time. I hung out with my parents on the holiday itself. My parents are divorced, so that involved dinner at my mom's house and dessert at my dad's house, which is cool. So the theme for this week is interesting. Basically, we're talking about one artist of any kind who has sort of had some kind of influence on us as related to our life change or just whatever we're doing in life right now. And I gave this some thought, and I had to really go back to high school when I was just starting to learn how to play music and write songs. At the time, my favorite band was Weezer, and they came out with their first album, I believe, in 1994, and their second album in 1996. And this is right around when I had first picked up guitar and was writing songs for the very first time. And I actually remember Brad from Draco and the Malfoys. He was one of my best friends throughout high school. He called me up and was like, "Matt, you need to turn on MTV right now." And I did, and it was Weezer and their video for the Sweater song. And I remember being kind of confused by it and just being like, this is ridiculous and happy and funny. And they seem to actually have a sense of humor. And I ended up shortly thereafter getting their first album, the Blue Album, and just fell in love with it. It was like, I don't know, it was just very bright and sunshiny and poppy and happy. And also it had enough substance to it that I could actually, my teenage self that was full of depression and apathy and, all these kind of ambivalent and weird emotions, it was something that I could actually still get into. And then 2 years later, in 1996, Weezer came out with this album called Pinkerton. Pinkerton actually became my favorite album, or one of my favorite albums of all time. Pinkerton was a lot different from the Blue Album in that it was all just very raw and emotional, and it was self-produced by Weezer, and Rivers Cuomo, the songwriter, primary songwriter for the band, just kind of bared his soul, and he sang a lot about relationships and sort of the trials and tribulations of romance, and it was just really, really, substantial. And that's the album that really just pushed me over the edge, and Weezer became my favorite band. A lot of ways, this album kind of changed my life. It really shaped the way I wrote music, and it also actually shaped the way I viewed relationships. Rivers Cuomo is kind of an oddball songwriter, whether he's singing about, unraveling his sweater, and being naked because you unraveled his sweater, or if he's singing about an 18-year-old Japanese girl that he likes to write letters to or something. The bottom line with him is that usually he's being honest. Basically, Pinkerton just came at this formative time in my life where I was actually really developing a stride with songwriting, and I think I had been playing in bands for a couple years at that point. It really shaped everything I've written since. How this sort of ties in with relationships is that I was really struck by the honest, confessional way that Rivers wrote music, and it turned me into sort of an honest, confessional person. If you don't happen to own Pinkerton, you should go check it out. That album is not only a great piece of music and a great piece of songwriting, but it really explores kind of every angle of relationships. Although there is a lean towards failure. There are songs about how he's tired of having intercourse. There are songs about how he doesn't feel like it's even worth it to try being with somebody because it's not going to work out anyway. He talks about being too old and sort of wishing he could go back and be his young self again and just go out and have fun. He talks about falling in love with a lesbian. The sort of overriding theme of the album is that, he can't quite make it work. But I think in a way, and I've covered this before, but I think that failure often leads to success in the future. I think when you kind of figure out where you went wrong in the past, you can then take that as lessons and fix things that might have been wrong about your behavior in the past and eventually make it work.